I'm going to introduce you to the use of the class designer. Um, it's very simple to bring up a class designer. I'm going to select the business layer, right click, and view the class diagram. This allows us an overview of the classes that we have in this particular project. And currently the only class that we have is the applicant class, which simply has two fields, two properties, no methods, no event handlers. The new classes can be added. For example, we need to maintain a list of all applicants. We can simply right click, add a class. Perhaps we could name this class the main model. I'm going to simply name it school. It's going to keep track of everything we need to know about the school, a list of all the teachers, all the courses, all the students, all the applicants. So I simply create my new class, and you can see that when you click on it, down here in the class details, it's very simple to add new fields, new properties. In this case, the only thing I need to do is to add a list of applicants. By default, fields are lowercase, so applicants is plural, because we have more than one entity class here, and I'm simply going to instantiate a list of applicant entities. Okay. In this case, even though it's not great practice, I'm going to make this a public field just because it makes my code slightly easier to write. Now that I have my applicants, I'm going to go to the next step. Well, first of all, perhaps I should show you the code itself. It's very, very simple. Class. I've got my class, which is public, and a public list of applicants. Okay. Perhaps it would be a good idea to have a constructor that instantiates my list. So let's go back to the class diagram. And let's make sure that school is selected. Here we can add a number of new types of methods, and in fact I'd like to add a new constructor. You can see that by default it's put in here, and if you double click on it you can go straight to it. It gives you a warning that it's not implemented yet, so it's not a bad idea to remove that and replace it with applicants, plural, equals, new, list of applicants. Okay, and we simply call the constructor for the list class. Great. At this point, we need to actually do a test. Can we add things to this list, and is our list working properly? So let's take a peek. Perhaps we could right-click on the school class, and we could create unit test. By default, it's not going to create very much, but it is going to put it into the existing project. So instead of doing that, I'm actually going to correct the small problem that I have. As you see, I've got a problem with my applicant class. Let me open that up very quickly and just make this class public. Great. And skipping back to school, I'm going to go into my test project. I'm going to go open up my test in general. I'm going to create a new test. The test that I'd like to create is quite a simple one. And again, sometimes it's easier just to copy out some of this to get yourself started. Paste it in. I'm not going to be throwing an exception here, but what I would like to do is I'd like to test that two applicants can be added to the list of applicants. Great. Okay. And again, an appropriate name here. Add applicants. Good. I'm actually going to change what I'm constructing here, so I'm going to go, let's get rid of all of this and start with a brand new one. Probably the best way to write code anyways, isn't it? Here we go. School. S, let's call this the domain model, equals new school. Great. So that will instantiate, hopefully, because we're calling the constructor, it's going to instantiate our linked list. And then our linked list, which is going to be domain model dot applicants dot add, allows us to add a new applicant. Obviously, before we can add a new applicant, we have to create a new instance of an applicant. So let's do that. Applicant A equals new applicant. Unfortunately, we don't have a very sophisticated constructor here, so we're going to go last name equals Sheldon, and applicant first name equals Ed. Okay, and I guess we can continue on from there by simply adding that. Let's see, I've got my code down here already, don't I? So add A. Tidy this up a little bit. So we've added our first applicant. Next thing we'd like to do is pretty much do all of this with a second applicant. So let's just duplicate the code very quickly. Call this guy B, applicant B in all cases, and we'll add B to our list of applicants. Probably giving a slightly first name. In this case, my sister Mary is also an applicant. Everything's looking good so far, so all we need to do now is to use an assert, r equal, and there's any number of tests that you could do here. In fact, there's a great deal of interesting asserts that could be used here that actually deal specifically with list. We'll keep it simple. What do I need to check? I need to make sure, for example, that I have 2 applicants in my list. So in my domain model dot applicants, do I have exactly 2 applicants? Okay, good. So hopefully when I run this test, it should fail. And the reason it didn't fail is because I wrote the code before I wrote the test. And using an agile approach, I should have written the test first. Okay, we can all learn from each other's mistakes.